Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the, I believe, 135th episode. We should be able to find that here. Yes, 135th episode of the House of Light expansion to Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. And we have quite a bit to do, it looks like. So this is, of course, the first episode after a weekend. It's been probably over a week since I've recorded the last episode, but the notes that I have here say that for the miner, I need to add memories and opening the slithering fountain. So the idea here will be that I'm going to somehow get the miner up to 14. We've already given them a memory, actually, so I may need a bit of a think in terms of how this is going to happen. I'm sure I'll get it, but I should definitely keep an eye on where we're at with this. Now, I made a note here that said Sky Stories +3, but then there's a little question mark beside it. And then also a note to make an Ascendant Harmony, which I suppose was something I was saving when I had Bells and Braziers back. At least those are my guesses. So I guess the one little bit of good news is that I don't need to lock in any of these until 4 seconds pass, because we'll have the... Sorry, what I mean by that is I need to at least get the talk verb back. And by then I should have a clearer idea in terms of what these various desks are doing. Okay. Down to the Grussians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So because we want to open the slithering fountain, this means I'm looking for 3 more scale. Now, could it be as easy that I just give them beef? That can't be right. Well, beef, fish, whatever. But then again, I guess I haven't given them the tool either. We've got collaboration, we've got a beverage, we've got a memory. And for some reason I keep thinking that the fish is 2 scale, but it's not, it's 2 moon. But you know what? If that's what it takes, I will definitely give him the beef. I will definitely give him the tool. Let me just make sure that those are the elements that I require. I can't remember if... I think we did Gervinus last time, so this one will do to the Librarian Willem in earnest of our wager. Yep, proffer a tool. I can lend my assistant something to help increasing their abilities. So, just again... Reminder, it's 12 of 14, so the answer will be to hand off some beef, and they will be ready to go. All right, now the other thing that I'll do is take a look at the remaining timers, just because, like, I don't really think it's a bug, or maybe, I mean, I guess it's a bug if it's not intended behavior, but it's not something that it's not unexpected for me at this point, or it's something I expect, maybe the better way to put it, but I have to unpause to be able to see all the timers. So we're earning some money. We are probably trying to get more fish. Although sometimes packages come up too, and I definitely could use what I find from the packages. I'm curious if this is the Ascendant Harmony. Oh, this is the Didymos. Oh, I wonder if I was going to make the Ascendant Harmony with... I don't think I can with Sacralamea. Anyways, I will give it a thought. At this desk, okay, so here we will be, this is going to be presumably where we get the Sky Stories from. So I suppose the next step should, for me, really should be to try and make these, get these Sky memories going. I don't know what comes from the Nangala book, though. So, let's say... Oh, I remember now. So, it wasn't the skill, it was the Mazarine Fife that I was waiting for the Ascendant Harmony. Okay, so that's fine. I don't feel great about... kind of sitting on my hands and waiting for these things to resolve, but I I know that Sky Stories is not that high. Maybe I've committed it to something. Yep. So it also won't take a whole lot to generate the required memories. So we'll carry on. Again, it's a little... I feel a little weird doing this because there's clearly so many elements of the soul for me to be working with right now. If nothing else, I should be converting them into things that I can get from Crowcross Sands and such. But I'm sort of willing to overlook that for a little bit. And then I suppose at some point I need to be thinking about what I will do for a Salon, but... Okay, gather in spring, unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So happy to have some more mushrooms. I haven't really... So the funny thing is that the mushrooms are actually some of the dishes I like to make the most, but they're also a little complicated to make compared to some of the other ones. So for instance, mushrooms on toast would require me to make bread. So I don't use them as often as I would like to. But again, depending on how the day goes, I may or may not have the bandwidth to make a few extra things. Okay, so we'll put the package in the cucurbit. Another thing for me to open. Little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So this is probably overkill, but we were running short, and I think I was going to use this in production to make Orpiment Exultant or the Iotic Essence. And we've got a sound, which I don't think will do much for us on our goals, but I'll hang on to it, and we'll take a look. Okay, so I'll need at least 2 memories for the start. So that would be Rose or Sky. Maybe not the easiest thing for me to work with, but we'll be okay. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately, so while we work to resolve this last step, beef. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. And as I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So I'm going to make a bit of a judgment call here. Normally I like to take the shaft and sort of rotate it through the process, but given the fact that I'm going to be focusing on Rose and Sky memories for the next little while, I think the better move for me here is just to take the metal and throw it in. Now I don't want to be too reckless with this because we are near the end of the... we're kind of near the end of the period. So I'm also going to want to get as many Sky and Rose memories as I can to upgrade in pretty short order. But at this point, with the 3.4 seconds, I might as well see what I'm up against, and then we can make some decisions. Speaking of, in the mountains as upon the plain, there may not be a path where none has passed. Nangala of Lagash describes the secrets to be found in mountains. Nangala tells a number of lively stories about riddling ogres, and wars between mountain tribes, but turns somber in the tale of the empty-handed hunter, a lover of the Grail who sought to match her appetites and join her as an hour, but in the end rent and devoured himself, giving his name to the mountains he once had roamed. Nangala claims that the Hours who sometimes manifest as birds, the laughing thrush, the ivory dove, the breech crow, and the witch and sister, meet at a secret location on a mountaintop to exchange gossip unheard by their peers. Now and then a mortal overhears them. The mortal is always obliterated, and the meeting place always changed. Okay, we got gossip for that, so welcome addition. Sky Stories. Now I think gossip seems like one of those crowded shelves. Nope, nope. We now have something next to 3 flowers, half the tree. So I was thinking it'd be one of these small shells, but I didn't realize I only had one gossip book, so cool. Didymos, the dream of a star is not apparent to the human eye, but its presence, once felt, could not be mistaken for anything else. No star is permitted upon earth, but we may cozen them to dream of us, and the dream of a star may take a kind of form, which we call Didymos. Thomas de Wolfe. All right. I have a few things to do here. So I suppose the first thing I'd like to do is kind of coax the Ascendant Harmony out. It's not actually the highest priority, but it's one of the longest. So this is not the one that I wanted. I think it's Valentine's Woe. Yeah. Okay. So if I do Sacra Mea, well, technically we don't know what the sky is yet, but it says here I can make the Mazarine fife with it. So, nope. Actually, we still want the fife. We just don't want the... Now, for some reason, I'm thinking that I can do an Ascendant Harmony. Brush a light with a feather. Yeah, so... I don't know where that idea came from, but it was clearly wrong. Same story there. So I really do think it comes down to... I'll take a look just to be sure, but I think at this point it's Bells and Braziers is the... Nope, Purifications and Exaltations. Fair enough. Don't even need to give up a memory for that, so... Checks in the mail. All right. So, let me just double check. I seem to recall having some specific plans for these sky stories. Right. It was Birdsong, but I think I actually was going to put these pretty high in Birdsong. So the easy answer for me here is to just generate as much rose and sky as I can in one go. So we're going to start with that. And ideally, we'll do it without duplicates, although that's not as critical. Okay, so we'll start with the unhatched hymns. And I believe the secret threshold... Sorry, yes, it is secret threshold. I believe that will also help me out. So I would have loved some sky to work with. Oh, actually, that's another thing I should hang on to. So I only have Fet to apply to this right now. So I can't use the old trick with... well, sorry, it's not even the old trick, but I use Fet quite a bit. But I do actually need to be a little more careful in terms of how I'm using that. Okay, I'm going to try and use Opening the Sky for the other music. Okay, so sorry, I should also be thinking about what I want. So first of all, we're going from 2 to 3, so that means 2, then 3 to 4, so that's a total of 5, and then 4 to 5, so I need a total of 9, of which I have 1 already. So really I'm looking for, well, you know, I'll just count from here. So we've got 3 looking to get to 9. I think we've read this. Okay, 4. A little bit risky here, but I think I can make it work. Five. 6. 7. 8. I think... Oh, of course. That should be 9. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So moving forward with the assumption that I've now used all the... I'm generating all the memories that I need. Let's go for... Yeah, we'll do beachcombing. Not so sure... I can also do some gardening, so I'll hold off on that. Yeah, actually, I think I'm just going to do the beachcombing right now. The real problem here is I need to find the metal, the shaft, the whisk. There's a bunch of other stuff that I can be working with, and I don't have a good idea about what to do with those yet. I should probably work that out in the next minute because I'm going to have some opportunities closed off. Honey or beeswax if I'm careful, cuckoo honey if the blubberende have been by to visit their infant nobility. It's been a while since we've gotten some beeswax. Oh, you can do it. So I think I'm willing to go for another run. This is partly because the cuckoo honey I think will help me with the skin shuck mead. Actually, you know what? I may not even need the cuckoo honey. But anyways, more cuckoo honey is probably better than less. It certainly opens more possibilities. So I guess I could do pentaments and precursors here. As for the rest, I think we're just going to wait out the timing. We'll, of course, have a bunch of reading to do, but to me, the reading is one of the perks, so hopefully you feel similar. A cranial tchotchke. We all of us come to this condition in the end, but not all of us are fortunate enough to be lovingly buffed and fixed carefully to a stylish wooden stand. This may be in bad taste, but let's see if we can fit. Yeah. I think I'm willing to wait. So it seems to me that for the delivery from TRN Limited, we're either going to have Numa, in which case I'm not going to need to worry about the delivery, or I'm going to want to prepare for a Salon, in which case I'll be willing to wait the minute to open up the package. So in that case, I think what I'm going to do here is open the package I found washed up. Contraband jetsam, flung overboard in furtive haste. And I think I'll use a medal for that. Who threw this overboard? Now for the miner, we're at 14, so we can use them to open up the slithering fountain, but I think until we actually have some progress with the sky stories, I'm going to speak to the assistant and generate some memories. What I may change, though, we've already kind of done our tour of all the various animals in the building. I think what I might try and do is coax a couple more eggs out of Tuppence and Terrence. That's a second order concern, though. I'll do that after after I kind of know I'm on the right path with the sky stories. The other thing is, if we do have Numa coming up, the one thing that would have been nice would have been to make an earthquake name, just so I have another memory ready to go. But I don't know if that was a real possibility, like in the kind of in the timeline that that I had available to me. So we'll overwrite this solace, but that's fine. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So this one I'll restore. It is spring and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Okay, so, unhatched hymns. Hymns attributed to St. Lucia the Eyeless, patron of glassworkers and name of the hour called Meniscate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next, madrigal to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Meniscate, from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the reflections, more puzzlingly, celebrates the Meniscate as the sister of Janus, mother of shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. There's the Savage Hymn. I'll actually put that down on the next layer because the ones that can be duplicated would be best to remove first. On the Matter and Deeds of Serpents, this was probably the Prophecies of the Naga rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergences from that text. It's certainly quite recent by the standards of VAC texts. The serpent folk, called the Great Hooded Princes, came to know the order called the House of Leith and warred across the miles with them. They made an alliance with the Mother of Ants, whose children they had been. The text describes how the Great Hooded Princes escaped, or will escape, from the fifth history, where they had died, or were doomed to die. They engage in a secret conquest of the land of the Great River, called India in some histories, and have ensured that all other conquests of that land are false conquests. So, yeah, that did give me the rows we were looking for. Letters from a Fugitive. Lars Westergren, explorer and murderer, spent 7 years escaping justice through his knowledge of byways and shortcuts in the bounds. Throughout that time, he wrote regularly to his daughter, possibly in part to taunt his pursuers. A year with the Legion de Seul, patrolling the bounds, until he deserts. A month in the Priory of Captains in Morban. 7 days, or so he claims, in Ye's Behind the Wave. Cornered at last by his pursuers, Westergren writes that he will attempt the paths of the sun. He doesn't seem sanguine about his chances, and indeed this is his last letter. An editor's note adds that Westergren's whereabouts or end remain unknown, although he was supposedly sighted at the Christmas market in Vienna, the negotiations between invisible underworld figures that happen each year there in 1929. Opening the Sky, an unusual recording of Varro's Opening the Sky, composed for the coronation of the new king, Henry IX. The record bears the suppression stamp Expunge. The first movement is soft, autumnal. The second, unsettling, febrile. The third is bright, soaring, rapturous. The fourth movement is glassy, slithering, a tintinnabulous icicle rattle. The fifth returns to the theme of the third, bright and rapturous once again, but this is a choral movement. It becomes apparent, though, that these are much, much too pure and high to be human voices. They recall birdsong. They recall the sweep of the windswept sky, blue turning black at the edge of the higher heaven. And they wrench the heart in a direction the Bureau does not permit. The Mirror of Melisande, the daybook and dream journal of Abbess Melisande, venerated as a saint and respected as an alchemist. Melisande speaks longingly of those we would call from behind the sky. Melisande claims that the sights and sensations arts that she describes can be used to invoke the dream of a star when sufficient sky aspect is invoked to uplift an ascendant harmony, which I believe... Oh no, we used Sacralamea. I was going to say, I think we did exactly that, but that was a different one. Our favorite, The Intimations of Skin, fiendishly complex, weirdly distorted illustrations of Congress and anatomy by the haunted visionary painter Niels Fredrik Malsker. Malsker illuminates the names of the Grail with unfortunate clarity. It seems a lovely who consumes an ivory becomes an ivory, a lovely who consumes a thirstly becomes a thirstly, a lovely who consumes a name of another hour might take its place. In the penultimate illustration, a lovely grapples with a fungoid knot that can only be a name of the crown growth. The lovely's mouth and other portals gape wide, and the growth name is already partially engulfed, but it seems that Malsker couldn't bring himself to illustrate the result, and the final illustration is only a scrawled, bloated obscurity. What does not bark? Alexander Probst writes warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the library's The Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so the Hours can make use of them? Okay. So I think I'll switch out the confounding parable here. Just because storms are something that can be replaced by the assistant. And against the Sisterhood of the Knot and the foulness of their depraved customs, Hieronymus Pseudo-Hypnotimachus wrote this furious screed about the sinister influence of the Sisterhood of the Knot on his own Church of the Unconquered Sun. Hieronymus claims that the powers served by the Sisterhood of the Knot made an arrangement. The Thunderskin loved the Yew and the Grail destroyed him as restitution for the destruction of the Axe's loved ones. Hieronymus's writing becomes incoherent with rage at this point. Hieronymus recovers his composure, eventually, to describe how the Thunderskin entered the Mansus through the Peacock Door. This, Hieronymus insists, is abomination upon abomination, but then that most abominable of doors has always been an abomination. And we will move Secret Threshold up. So again, priorities given to the things that could potentially be generated by the assistant. But it seems to me like we've got the memories we need to upgrade everything. It's just a question of getting the consider verb opened, which means we'll throw the miner into the well full of snakes. A shilling buys a lot these days. I feel that this is the point somebody needs to make a mod so that Indiana Jones can show up. I guess Indiana Jones is a pretty knock-coded character, right? He's got the scar from the opening of the wound. Opens sealed places. I'm sure one of you is going to run with that and make something fun. All right, Ambergris Chunk. Never, never, never call it whale vomit. But where do I put my quartz? I have tried to use the ambergris chunk to make a couple of the things that I need. I think, if I recall correctly, I tried to make catwink with it at some point, but I still needed a liquid. We'll figure it out one day. All right. Definitely there's some items that I find more useful than others. I think that's true for most people, but I try not to fall in the trap. So I have my... Here's the funny thing. I've developed my preferences because of some of the challenges that I've done for myself. So you'll notice, maybe, I'm sure some of you will... Man, that was the perfect... It really was the perfect one to lock in. I think I'm still probably going to keep the sound overnight. Well, why would I, right? I can keep the confounding parable without the trouble. By this point, I think most of you will already know this, but I have been delighted by a few of you who send... Actually, what I'll like the most is I think a couple of you have left these messages on the some of the earliest videos. And so when you get to this point, you may remember leaving some of those comments, and you'll just know the passage of time has worked in such a way that now you're catching up with the contemporary... Well, maybe not fully contemporary remarks, but reasonably close to the time. Anyways, it is very clear that there are a few people who are just getting into the game, who are finding the game through these videos. And I really do want to do a tutorial at some point. It feels kind of pointless almost because the game's been out so long, and yet clearly people are still in the process of trying this out for the first time and learning it. But it is kind of nice to see people get into the game, and yet I'm a little self-conscious of the fact that the way that I play this is largely driven by some of the challenges that I've given myself in terms of trying to, get certain things in the Tree of Wisdom, or to do everything, like be the self-reliant librarian who uses, you need to get an assistant, but you try and get the assistants that are guaranteed to you and such. And so it may come as news to a few of you that there are actually special special figures who come with much higher levels of their aspects. Now, this one's not a good example because I've upgraded the miner to 14 scale. I'll try and give an example about how you can hire them. But that's one of the things I'm a little self-conscious about on these, which is that I have my own particular quirks. And the funny thing is that it's not even a best practice. It's just a me practice. And because I've done it so many times, you know, sometimes even just because I played the beta, I've sort of developed these habits which may or may not be helpful. So, but I think it's kind of clear over time that I don't really believe in ideal ways of playing single-player games, at least. You know, there will be ways that'll get you through the game faster. That would be true for Book of Hours or other games, but faster isn't necessarily the point. In fact, I would often say that leisure is largely driven by the fact that we're not trying to get through it as quickly as possible, although certainly YouTube, you know, wants to encourage you to hit that 2 times button to serve you more ads. So, all of that to say, yeah, I think discovering some of this stuff and working it through is sort of the way you develop. I guess I'd call it your style in terms of playing the game. But yeah, needless to say, I'm also kind of conscious of the fact that I have some quirks. I have some things that I always do, even if they're not necessarily the best way to play the game. And so I try, you know, I'm glad that people find out more about the game for watching these. But of course, I would hope that I do not have my own sort of subcult of playing the game the way that I do. Because of course, the whole point of learning these mechanics are so you can, you can have your own experience through Hush House. All right, the Slithering Fountain. After all these years, the other point that I wanted to make out of it is I'm actually quite delighted by these messages that come in. I know sometimes people are a little reluctant to send messages that are quote-unquote off-topic, but I think the thing is that there are lots of different ways to learn about a game, and sure, you can go to a subreddit and ask the question, but then you're kind of hoping that you get, you know, I think the Weather Factory audience is pretty friendly for the most part, so I don't think people need to worry too much about that. But, you know, if you don't know that in advance, you know, maybe you're going to be a little reluctant to ask the question, or maybe you don't use Reddit or any of these other things. So if you have had questions about the game, and I will tell you, it's pretty inefficient to go through 130 something episodes, you know, about a half hour long a piece, to try and find that one piece of information that you're looking for. But if it isn't clear, I don't find it a bother if people ask me questions about Cultist Simulator or Book of Hours on the videos. Sometimes people have a question. Hopefully I come off as knowledgeable on the game, and if I can help you enjoy the game a little bit more, then I'm happy to do that. The only time I've been bothered by questions are when people think they're being really clever and, you know, they're quote unquote teaching me how to play the game through their question. And it's obviously these people think they're very smart and that they're being very, very stealthy. No, it's very obvious and it's kind of annoying, but what are you going to do? Right. So, but good faith questions, you know, people wanting to know more about the game. That's kind of why I do these, and I like sharing the game. So I encourage you, if you've been bottling something up, feel free to ask it. Okay, after all these years, the fountain in this hall is blocked. That's not a surprise. A little more surprising is this. The blockage appears to be mostly snakes, a great many snakes. This, no doubt, is why we have seen so few rats. Get in there. And I think that's it for today. So I think it's pretty clear what the plans are. All the other things that I had wanted to deliver are kind of in hand. What I think I will do as one last step is I'm going to have a chat. This time we'll talk with Tuppence, the other chicken. Tuppence's most notable quality, all observers will agree, is that she is not Terrence. So for this, we'll use the tryst. Time with the beastie. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. And we have just enough time here that I think we can do... I'll maybe do another round with the honey, but I think we can do some gardening. I don't really need cat's claw, so we'll grab another moth orchid. So we'll have the grapes over here to feed the chicken with, and then when the hive has sort of run its course, we'll use the health accordingly. The fed is the only thing that I can't touch. But yeah, so most of the stuff that I wanted to do is either done or we're sort of on the path to completing. But the big one's just going to be to try to get Sky Stories leveled up before the evening is done, on the odd chance that we have Numa, which of course means that we'll try and make the most of the elements of the soul I have available and see if we can break a skill to make some more progress up the tree. But all of that will be handled in the next episode, which should be on Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching. Take care until then.